What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank, and today I want to talk about, oddly enough, Vladimir Putin and his declaration that Jesus Christ was black, right? And the theme of this is going to be how a lie becomes unraveled, all right? And you got to understand, when a really good lie is told, and you guys probably don't know where I'm going with this and why I got this map up, but when a really good lie is told and it's pushed, right? I mean, a really good lie is told, then you can change the world, right? Propaganda is everything, right? If you can tell a good lie, you can control the world. You can make things happen, right? And that's why people lie, right? They take advantage of naive people who tend to believe pretty much anything they hear or see. And some people are very convincing otherwise rational people to believe in certain things, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unravel a lie and tell you what Vladimir Putin is doing strategically. All right, but first I got to give you a little geography lesson, all right? Because most people don't know this stuff, right? So I do know a little bit about this stuff, so I'm going to give you this information and unravel the lie, all right? So of course y'all got to know how I feel about religion, how we need to go back to African spiritual religions, right? Right? Y'all heard me say that. Y'all heard me make videos about that. Watch where I get you, all right? But watch where we start. And how this is related to what Vladimir Putin said and why he's making a strategic move utilizing propaganda, right? It's clearly propaganda, but sometimes propaganda has a hint of truth in it, depending on how thick it is as a lie. How many layers did it take to make that lie? Or is that lie just a layer of a bigger lie? No matter how fantastical it is, the lie may be an element of a bigger lie. And that's kind of where we're going today. But first, I gotta give you a little backstory. This is Russia. I want you to notice where it is, right? This is Russia. Now, I want you to understand that this map is highly distorted. This place that we see Russia from Spain all the way to the tip of Japan, all that, make that like probably half. It's really, this thing is like twice its size, all right? And Africa is being represented probably half of its size right now, legitimately. Right, this map is distorted, right? Just like Greenland is you saw Greenland big, they make Greenland. Get out of here, man. This is just distorted map. So when we're talking, I want you to think how massive Africa really is, because we can fit all of that inside of Africa, even though it doesn't look like that in this picture, but that's the truth, right? So when you think about the interaction between Europeans and then what we call Asians and parts of Africa, I want you to think about these as being smaller places, right? Meaning easier to get to, right? As far as walking, because everybody's walking or riding horses, whatever. So when you think about people intermingling, or who's the real this, who's that, and the possibilities of people just moving about, then you'll have a better grasp of certain things and how it's all connected. Okay, so look, this is Russia. Hold up, let me back up here. This is Russia. Notice, Russia is basically part of what we call Asia, right? It's in Europe and it's also in Asia. All these people here are Russian. Most of these people in the back are Chinese, right? Basically the same Han Chinese ethnic groups. We're talking ethnic groups. And China and Mongolia, they're poised to take over this portion of Russia, right? Russia is a massive forest. One of the most important oxygen producing forests in the world, has the densest forests in the world, creates the cleanest air in the world, right here. But most of the population centers of what you see on TV as Russians, they live around here. Right? But if you see where Ukraine is, you see where Ukraine is, right? You see where Belarus is. Y'all keep seeing Ukraine, Belarus, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, right? That's the belt between Russia and Europe, Anglo Saxon Europe, all right? Understand that if you notice that Russians don't normally call themselves white, or they're not white, right? I mean, they're white, clearly, they're European, but you never hear them adopt the term white. These people are Russian. They will always tell you they're Russian. You don't hear them call themselves Europeans, really. You know what I mean? Yeah, you got some, some, but it's not a big thing, right? Because these people are mixed. They are mixed. They're Eurasians. They're mixed, right? So if you look at the middle portion of below Russia, right? You got what we know as the Stans, Turkestan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan. These are where the Asians, right, and the people we call Europeans started to mix. This is where they mixed up, right here. That's why if you look at some Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, and parts of Russia, they look like Asian. They got Hippocampus, the Han Chinese Hippocampus eyes and all that. Some of them actually look completely and totally Asian. Some look European. They're very mixed. It's a very mixed group. These are Eurasian multicultural races and groups, all that encompasses Russia, right? And then you have the Anglo Saxon, right? And then you have you got the Northerners. These people are kind of like the tip of the rest of these Russians. These people still have their traditional religions. So they kind of move a little different, right? These people, they're very mixed up because the Han Chinese and then the Han Chinese kind of took over Russia for quite a while, right? They raided them, right? So the nomadic Asians came from Mongolia, right? And they took over this area, that we call Russia, and a lot of these places. All these people used to pay dollars. They used to pay taxes to the Mongolian Empire, the Han Empire, right? And then Genghis Khan came, and he did the same thing, right? So Russia has had a raw deal with being colonized and conquered, in the past, right? But their main enemy, who they've been fighting, have been these Anglo Saxons, right? These are the Europeans, the sailors, the ones that charted the world and, plundered it, right? That's who these guys are. These guys have been trying to plunder this area for quite a while, right? The Roman Empire did it. You know what I'm saying? A few other European powers did it. They've always been, kind of like trying to take this area of Russia, right? It's always been a target, right, of Anglo-Saxon aggression, right? I don't want to go too deep in it, but they've always been a target. They are not the same. These people don't look at each other as the same. Yes, on some levels they're Europeans, so they'll some levels they're the same, but for them culturally and historically they've been battling. These guys have been fighting. You see all these countries? We didn't have countries. All these countries, these are resorts of wars. Massive wars. And they've changed so many times. These people have just been fighting over these resources. Now, as of the current event, right, you have the Europeans and the Russians in conflict, right? The European Union, along with America, which is European light, right, started a war, aggravated Russia. Because you see, this is the belt line between Russia and Europe. The Anglo-Saxons, right? The world dominator and conquerors who believe that they can just go everywhere and take and destroy everybody. These people over here, so they do, not all of them, but that's where they come from, the Anglo-Saxons, right? These ones, more specifically, these Anglo-Saxons. But, I mean, all of them been battling like a mug, for a while. But they're different. Even all the way up to Poland. Remember, I think Poland just joined the Union or whatever, European Union or something. Poland, all the way back here, all right? So, as Russia, as Germany, as all these other countries, as France, as England, as all of them and all these other countries at one point or another tried to go further up into all this rich, lush European land. This is like the cold Mecca, right? These people here. Look all that greenery, right? Including Ukraine. So this part of Europe has a lot of resources, right? Lots and lots and lots of resources. Lots and lots of resources for it to be Europe. But this portion don't have anything, really, right? That's why they've been sucking the blood of Africa. But remember how more massive Africa is of Europe. Like I said, cut this in half, right? And I want you to think about this. When they say world war, they only mean Europeans. That's how they center themselves. When they fight, it's a world war. Even though they do include other places. But for the most part, it's a European war. We've had European War number 1, European War number 2, and European War number 3 looks like it's happening. Never been a world war. Even though some of those things happen in other countries, but that was mostly between these people and their former colonies because their colonies had all the resources. These people are like resource suckers. They've all over the world sucking resources. That's what they're good at, right? Through, war and espionage and all that stuff. Well, so since we all know that since this place here, Africa, is on the rise, people are becoming smarter. They're taking over their governments. They're detaching themselves from Europe and all their colonial and economic oppression, slowly but surely. That's why it's always in the news. We're always talking about it, right? But the thing is, even though all these people colonized us, right? The Anglo Saxon Germanic Europeans, right? These are the people that the Romans called barbarians. They gave them that title, right? The Romans conquered all of Europe, right? Back in the day, they conquered all that, right? Built their infrastructure. They didn't have infrastructure until the Romans came. And then when they defeated the Romans, they destroyed all that infrastructure because they couldn't keep it together themselves, right? And then they were always constantly warring, right? And fighting and battling, right? But they always got together, even though they fought and killed and enslaved and murdered and learned all the things that they did to the world, they perfected it here, the art of death and destruction, the art of war. This is where they did it because they did it to each other, right? They was trying to take that everywhere else, right? And they want Russia. They want to destroy these Slavics, these not quite white people of Europe, right? Because they see them the same way as they see these guys, right? The first mulattoes, so to speak, between Asians, Europeans, and Africans. Right? And the closer here to Africa you get, the darker it gets because this is Africa right here. So Africa has all the resources, right? And we have all the manpower which is necessary to manufacture goods that the world produces in order to sell things to make money, right? Africa has the population for corporations to come and set up businesses to take their money and put it in their pockets, right? That's why Africa is on the rise, because corporations want to get up in here and make money off the massive and ever-growing population. Remember, one in every 5 persons in the next 50 to 100 years are going to be African, black people. Because remember, not only because of history we're here, but we're also here, right? And we're also in the Caribbean, and we're also in North America, and we're also in Canada. Right? And we're also in Europe as a population. Understand, doesn't matter whether we are the ones running the show, where we were taken there voluntarily or we were volunteering. We are everywhere now. And keep in mind, not only are we everywhere, but that has not stopped the growth of the continent, which has the people with the most population and the strongest gene pool. Like completely and totally, population-wise, no one's messing with us. It's impossible, right? At the same time, all of Europe, right? And they have a small population. These guys are only they're like 9% of the world's population. Even though they control the world, they're only 9%. We're talking about people, right? Raw numbers, people. Not that many of them, right? And they're having an existential population decline, right? Through their own policies. No, not through our policies, through their own policies. Right? To the point to where they're trying to sponsor people to have children. That's why they're trying to get rid of abortion and all that stuff, right? Because they're trying to force their women to have children. They need it, right? So does most places in Asia, right? So while Asia also has the same issues for some odd reason, I don't know why, but they're having the same issues, right? As Europe. The only people who are not having population issues is the one that happened to already be probably the biggest group on the planet, including Africa. Damn near almost all of this portion of South America and growing All of the Caribbean and in America and in Canada. We're everywhere. There's nothing they can do about it, right? So, and we all know people, if this is the age of information, so that means people are learning now, right? So not only do you got a big population, you get an intelligent population, a more informed population, who are ever connecting on all parts of the planet, including most of all of Europe. No matter how they're getting there, they're just there, and that's a fact. Right? So their homeland, their base camp, is being taken over by the very same people that they colonized. The chickens have come home to roost. And on top of that, you have the epidemic, because they love their drugs coming from Asia, right? We keep going to war with Asia to get them damn drugs to bring to their colonies, right? Fentanyl, crack, opium. We literally go to war for it, right? So they can, feed their habit that they like. And everybody else seems to like it too, right? And they make their money. That's what they do, right? But the issue there is everybody's finding out now, because when you have such a small population and you're controlling the story, and everybody's ignorant of all actions taking place, you can get away with it. You can start wars and coups, and you can do all sorts of things, right? But when you get an educated population, not that easy to do, because you can't manipulate the people like you used to, right? So now African countries are taking their agency. They're disconnecting themselves from economic colonization, and that is and the Europeans are having a problem with it, because they've been feeding fat off the hog the whole time. They've been eating good. They've been eating so good. They didn't diversify their revenue because it's been working, right? So now they're running out of resources, running out of money, and they're running out of the power to actually control all this. Because keep in mind, Africa is the richest place on the planet. All they need to be educated to know what it is that they're sitting on. That's it. They just needed to take their stuff back, and that's what they're doing. So these people are becoming broke. That's why they rely on America so much, right? Because America's way over here. We got all these resources because we take advantage of all of this, because this is something they're gonna. They haven't even got started yet, right? Like we have, but guess what? They're starting to. The same thing's happening here. So as they get themselves together, and we get ourselves together, and they get themselves together, how can these people dominate, right? But the thing is, the future is always still economics, right? Making money. So these guys they have a bad reputation because of the exploitation. But guess who don't? Russia. You know why? Because Russia, for whatever political, economic, or social reason, did not participate in the transatlantic slave trade. They did not. And they have also strategically, I'm sure, their benefit as well as ours, but for their benefit, I'm sure, they have supported almost every African country that fought against its oppressor. They have been on our side the entire time. Despite what American propaganda has told you, they have been on our side. No, sure. Are they on our side so they can take resources? Sure. They didn't, but they never enslaved us. Of course they're going to get something out of it. Everything is transactional, right? But they came and they do business. Yes. Do they exploit? Yes. Just like everybody else, right? There's always going to be a level of exploitation when you can get away with it, right? Have they done some things in the continent that there's much to be desired? I'm sure they have, right? Just like every group of people have, right? Even themselves, they do it to that level, but not to an international colonial or transatlantic slave trade level. And they've always supported us in our fight against the imperial force, the Germanic Anglo Saxons, right? So now everybody sees the wind blowing. They see where the wind is blowing, right? You got BRICS nations, right? South Africa, China leading the way with Russia. That's a triangle. If these groups unite and create an economies utilizing their own currencies and disregarding America's currency, guess what? American sanctions won't work. That means they can't just crush economies with a stroke of a pen. See, that's how America keeps Cuba down. Y'all keep asking why Cuba is the way it is, because America crushes Cuba. Y'all keep asking why Haiti is the way it is, because America crushes Haiti with sanctions. We crush anybody we want with sanctions. We'll keep whole countries down with sanctions. We tell the world what it is they can do and can't do with the country. We force them not to be able to use their resources economically. That's why we crushed them. We crush people with sanctions. That's what America does, because everybody used the American dollar as a standard. Right? That's what y'all don't get. That's the real war, the economic war. Right? But the thing is, America's not really the richest place. Africa's the richest place. And as they take their resources, guess what? They're going to become the richest place. As they go to Europe, right, in America, and go to their universities and all their colleges and gather all that intellectual knowledge that they accumulated while they was taking advantage of our continent, guess what? Even though we're working for their companies, a lot of them companies are moving to Africa, because that's where the people are and the resources are, and the people can pay for it are going to be. In the next 50 years, everybody's going to be there. All the resources are there. Easier to manufacture and produce it and sell it there. That's where the money is. As corporations go, as relationships change, and as currency no longer being attached to the US dollar, America not being able to sanction, guess what? These countries can do what they want, because they are not beholden to the West. The West meaning the Germanic, Anglo Saxon, Francophones, and their subsidiary corporations over here in the United States of America. Canada. So Russia, strategically, for their own purposes, benefits and resources, and protection for collaboration, and economic fruitfulness through trade, guess what? They're trying to align strategically with African people. Now, what does this have to do with him saying that Jesus is black? Okay, I think in the age of information, we already done figured out everybody in this area was black. Everybody was black over here. This was part of Africa, right? So common sense says they were probably dark-skinned black, because these people were black. The original inhabitants were aboriginals, who looked like all the rest of the aboriginals on the planet, on this portion of the planet. Everybody here was melanated black people. Everybody in the global south are dark originally. All these people are dark-skinned people. This is the global south. All these people they're aboriginals, are dark-skinned, aboriginal, black-looking Asians who have more genetic similarities to us than they do these Anglo Saxon, Germanic, Francophone Europeans, right? So Russia is trying to strategically connect with Africa. Now, how else do you do that? As information starts to, be passed along, guess what? Whether you like it or not, Africa, the most diverse group of people on the planet, the richest continent on the planet with the largest population, is reconnecting with his diaspora that's intertwined in all of these countries, and including America, the richest group of Africans on the planet, with plenty of knowledge, know-how, and understanding and skills necessary, if infused with this place, if reconnected with this place, to cause massive economic damage to Europe 2.0 and Europe 1, especially with the unique cultural relationship between the diaspora and Africa, which is different from Europe. If you notice, these people will fight each other and destroy each other and separate themselves in more and more tribes. That's what they do. The Europeans over here, they don't see themselves like Europeans, like Africans see themselves as Africans. They've completely separated and became their own people, and they accept that, right? They make remember, they make countries, they make boundaries. These change all the time in Europe. We didn't have none of these. Take these lines away. We had kingdoms and places that we congregated, and we moved about our land freely, even though we did have certain territories that belonged to certain groups, certain kingdoms. It was understood, but we never owned the land. It was just ours. We were there, right? So, of course, Russia would peel off some of the lie and say that Jesus Christ was a black person, right? He would say it and declare it, right? Because he knew, right, by saying that, we were going to hear it, right? And it's strategically it's strategically advantageous for him, for the black community, to have conflict and acrimonious altercations with the white community. That caused more division within the country, right? Which is good for Russia. That also shows it shows a level of humanity to the African population of the world, right? Acknowledgement, right? And it also makes black people in America wonder, like, well, why don't we like Russia? We never had a problem with Russia. No, Russia never did nothing to us. They've only been good to our people for the most part, as a whole, even though they have issues with the Anglo Saxon Europeans and the 2.0s and the Anglo Saxon Germanic European their number one European enemy. So they have been fighting the same enemy that has been colonizing and stealing all of our stuff and enslaving us. We have a common adversary, right? So politically, economically, and for safety and protection, it's advantageous for him to say or do anything, spread any type of propaganda to get African Americans to like and have no problem with Russia, and for Africans to like Russia, and for us to have no problem with Russia. Because we simply really shouldn't really have much of a problem with Russia. Now, are Russians racist, individually? Do they have an element of white supremacy? Yes, they do, right? Some of the lower educated versions of them, just like we have educated versions of our own people who hate other African people and hate everybody else, right? Everybody has them, but not to scale like in in Europe. There's like a Nigerian mayor in Russia. He went to a village and he became the mayor. Like, no bull. Like even though minds do need to be changed, but that comes along with the age of information, and it's happening. That's what's scary for TikTok. They don't like that. TikTok is the vehicle to get all these people online talking to all these people and all these people. Right? The next generation is who's going to improve on, social relations even further than us, right? Every generation will do better than the next, hopefully. Right? But so that's why he would say that. It's propaganda, right? You need to understand that it's propaganda. I understand, but is it true propaganda? Now that's what we're peeling back the lie. You see, the Bible was an African story, right? Let me tell you the truth. We're at the truth now. The Bible was an African story. The Egyptian religion, the Sudanese religion, the Mali, the Niger, the Chad, Nigeria, all of our religions, we did one thing. We had a set of principles that we lived by. We understood spirituality, that we were the spirits, and that God was both male and female, and that there was a single God, a source, and we understood that all of us were expressions of those of God itself. We were God in God itself, experiencing itself through duality. We understood the duality. That's why man and woman are both important, right? There's a balance, it's equal. So the woman was always held as high regard, because they were the portals from that realm to this realm. That's how our souls reached from the source, from what we would call heaven, right? Whatever we call heaven, into this three-dimensional world to experience what it is to be life. The woman is the literal gateway through it. And we've always expressed that through the Ankh and through various other forms and symbols in our country. That's why you'll see the woman, the woman's always been crafted as big and thick and able to bear children, able to be in the gate of life, right? And so we've always had different ways to express that. And we talked about how we should be one with nature. As we are spirits, we're supposed to take care of the place that we're at. But we're supposed to understand how to have relations with each other, understand pain, love, happiness, sadness. We're supposed to understand all these things, and we're supposed to learn how to grow our spirits here on this land, so we can take that with us when we go home to grow further, because you never stop growing. We understood that we come back, right? We understood the resurrection was reincarnation, and that's what that was. That was reincarnation, and that's consistent in all African religions. We may have anamorphic pictures, of it, but those are the principles, and those are just allegories to explain a story, to get it to stick in your head. You make it entertaining, right? That's what we do as Africans. We got to make our information entertaining. That's how you get people to, you know, to remember these things, to jot it down, to write it down. You had to put a symbol with it in order to write it down for people to read it, to remember it, to understand it, to teach it, right? So we use animals and animal heads, and we use demigods and orishas and stuff from the Egyptian. You could take every Egyptian god, right, or what you would call God, and you take all the orishas, and you would see that those are very similar stories, along with the traditional African spiritual systems of all of Africa, right? We didn't worship our ancestors. We glorify their ancestors because they was the ones connected to God. They have already been here and left, and they're on the other side. So they give us guidance from that side until we leave, right? We understood all of this, right? What happened was the Europeans, these guys, came to learn it, right? And when they learned about African culture, because it wasn't religion, it was legitimately our culture. We are it. We are the spirits. God is everything because everything is God. You understand? That is true. And all religions pretty much preach that, right? And the only ones that came the closest was the Hindus people, which the Europeans created a word called Hindu and created a religion. But it wasn't a religion. Hindu is a group of people. They're not a religion, they're people, right? And those are their principles. Just like we had our principles, right? They took our principles and our allegories for how to live life and how to have a relationship with each other and nature. They took that, wrote it down because they saw how powerful it was, and they made a book and they called it religion. But just like they always do, they had to make themselves the character. So they had to relocate some places. They had to rename some things, right? They had to relocate some place. They had to create a whole place. A place that they had to create a whole place because it didn't happen here. It happened here. African story. They took our African story of the relationship between African cultures and their people of note, right? They rewrote it, right? They took it from our libraries. Remember, these are metropolitan areas. We walked from here all over this place. The greatest migration ever happened in humankind was the Bantu migration throughout Africa, right? That's how big Africa's so big. A group of people just walked around Africa, and it's still, as one group of people, is the largest group of migration ever in the history of Africa, and that's including from here, from Genghis Khan going from all the way over here to all the way over here, because this place is not as big as you think it is. All right, cut it in half and double this up, maybe triple it up. That's how big it is. That's why nobody wants to float their ships around Africa, because if you saw the true size of it, you'll understand how much it costs to get a ship around there. That's why all the wars are fight through here. The canals. It's cheaper to do business when you can get your goods from over here to over here. All right, and nobody wants to go around Africa. Costs too goddamn much, right? South Africa is a result of nobody wanting to go around Africa, all right? That's one of the results, all right? The military bases right here to protect this waterway, right? Where current battles and wars are happening right now, right? All because ships need to get through here because nobody wants to go around Africa. It's all about money, right? Wrapped in dogma to get people motivated to fight. But so the truth is, all these people, this story was an African story Europeans made up, right? The first layer of the lie is Jesus was black. You see, everybody gonna say, oh, Jesus is black. Well, no, he wasn't necessarily black because it wasn't Jesus. That story was an Egyptian story. So he definitely was black. The story's here. And I'm gonna tell you the story later on. I got the book coming, I'm gonna do my research. I'm gonna tell you the true story. But the truth is, the story's here. So yes, the person that inspired Jesus was black. The mother who birthed the quote-unquote virgin birth was black. Everybody was black. That's the truth. The first lie was Jesus, the story. No, actually, the first lie was Jesus. The story that Europeans stole, rewrote, was white. Then the other pill was, oh, he wasn't white, he was Middle Eastern, right? And then the last pill was split. Oh, he was black now. But the truth is, that's just 3 layers of lies to where the real story is here, right? Which is consistent with here, and consistent with here, and here, and here, and here. An African story of African cultures, African tribes, African kingdoms, and their interaction with them in nature, stolen, turned into religions, used to control everybody. That's why it's so familiar to us, because we were just practicing a regurgitated version of our story. That's why Ife is basically the 3rd most popular religion over here, an African religion, from Mexico all the way down to South America, the 3rd most populous religion. You didn't know that, did you? Yeah. So since the tides are turning, Europe is basically strategically connecting themselves with Africa to leverage against their historical foe. Anyway, I hope you understand the reason why Vladimir Putin would say something like that at this time. He can read the tea leaves. Everybody's reading the tea leaves. Some people are too ignorant, fighting each other, not to read tea leaves and realize this is our moment. This is our moment to stop talking trash and get to work. We can fight later. We get to work. We can fight later. But they're too busy stroking their egos every day instead of doing something or trying to do something. All right. This is our moment. And this is the reason why he went out and do it and did what he did and said what he said. Right. He just peeled back one lie. That's just layers upon layers of lies, but we all know where the truth lies. It's underneath that. So it's a good direction, right? I would, and like I said, yes, a lie on top of a lie on top of a lie. But in order to get to the truth, you have to unpeel many lies, right? It can be complicated. So I hope I unpeeled enough for you to understand what's all going on and why he would do and say something like that, knowing the climate that we got going on here. Anyway, that's all I got to say. This is Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.